And we're back. Hey, Nicole.
How you doing?
I yet live. So we'll start as we usually do with.
We're going to acknowledge our sponsors, and we're going to start with Urban Entertainment, which is an international DJing company and apparel company. So look for new urban apparel coming from Urban Entertainment. And if you're interested in DJing across the globe, definitely check us out on Facebook and contact DJ Ray.
Okay. And then we have.
Sheer Dazzle Salon, which is responsible for my natural hairdo. I mean, it's not. I did my best to maintain it. Every time we tape, it's like I'm always in between hairstyling. But anyway, and this weather won't allow me to be great. But Kiki Jones is the one that makes my hair long and healthy because of her hair treatment and what it is that she does as a stylist. And she has some other ladies that work there as well that are phenomenal at what they do. She's in Sam's Circle in the city of Chesapeake, Virginia. So definitely look for her on Style Seat and definitely look for her on Instagram, Kiki Jones.
All right. And last but not least.
Color You Cosmetics. God, I tell you, it's a lot to do in order to make this work.
Liar. Not that
Got put together. Yeah, I need eyebrows. So the author and the finisher of these will be Color You Cosmetics. And of course, I'm wearing Vamp. I know you're like, God, do you wear any other color? Yeah, I do. But it's like I like Vamp for today. Vamp really matched what I had on, so I'm doing Vamp again. Okay, people. But if you're interested in Color You Cosmetics or any of the products that Karen Stallings has, definitely check her out at Lithonia Mall in Georgia or here in North Virginia off of Little Creek Road. And you can definitely purchase her products through her website, which of course is Color You Cosmetics. And if you're interested in going to the MUA school or any other information about makeup artistry, see Karen Stallings, Color You Cosmetics.
All right. All right. So today we're not talking about a movie. We're talking about the loss of Sidney Poitier.
Yes.
He passed away this weekend. The man led a full life, um, and he used his platform not the way people use today,
Yeah.
but he was selective in his choices, and he took the opportunity to say it all without beating you over the head with it. You know.
Yes, he was a phenomenal talent. Sidney Poitier, was actually born in Miami to Bahamian immigrants. And he left Miami to come to New York to find his life, and it wasn't easy. He slept in a toilet stall. He did nominal work. He did a stint in the military, came back. And he worked his way through a theater school up in New York where he met his longtime friend, Harry Belafonte, and they've been close ever since then. But he had the type of tenacity to recognize that if he wanted to be good at this thing, and I don't know what caused him to get the acting bug. I guess the same thing that caused everyone at that time to get the acting bug, the singing bug, the musician bug when they came to New York, and and make their way and cut their chops in a way. He was so defeated when he first auditioned for the school and flatly told no, that he took 6 months to diminish his accent and to hone his craft. Now, how many of us want to do that? And it
Yeah.
takes a lot because Nikkei is Jamaican, and I
Well,
have other friends that are Haitian and come
yeah.
from a variety of different Caribbean isles, and that accent thing
Is hard to get rid of. I mean, you put
is
me back in
taken.
with in a certain space with family, and things start coming out again. So you may be able to mask it after a while, but it comes back.
It
It
does.
comes back. But he did have a very distinct, a commanding voice.
Yeah.
He had a very commanding voice, and I remember my mom would fangirl over him and Harry, of course. But the one thing that she always told me was that he kind of reminded her of Paul Robeson.
Yes.
That same presence, that same powerful presence. Um, I ended up watching Lilies, Lilies of the Field
Yes.
this weekend. Um, I was trying to find In the Heat of the Night so we could talk about that epic slap. But in this film, he's doing what he does. It's like, I'm a handyman. I will come and do these things for you. I'll fix your fence if you want. All you got to do is pay me. And just the way he played the role, he made the statement of, listen, I'm not quite from around here, so I really do need to be passing through. And at the same time, showing, you know what, I'm an honest worker throughout the whole film. That's one that I was like, you could see that nuance of him making the statement without yelling about it. Did you know he couldn't sing? He was tone deaf.
I did not know that.
That was not his voice. He was tone deaf. They were like, don't. Mm-mm. That was one of the
That's not for
reasons.
you. That's not your gifting.
Yes, that was one of the reasons why he was rejected. And he
Well,
actually,
because you had to be the total package back then. You should know how to sing, dance, and act,
mhm,
and that's what got you over. But he had other things that kind of made them take notice. You know,
right, right. He was the sex symbol back in that day. One of a few sex symbols, black sex symbols back in the day.
and it seems as if the colorism thing didn't impact him as much as you thought it would have, and it probably did in his own way. I think there's always undertones there, you
Hmm.
know. But I do think that they allowed him to be great, in the respect that he brought his own brand of whatever sex symbolness to the table that wasn't the typical lighter skin, fair hair,
Hmm.
spin on it. Because a lot of times they like to use the darker skinned gentlemen to be the brutes or to be the heavies or to be the laborers or whatever.
Right.
But they seem to find roles for him where he was more refined. But I think they didn't have a choice because of what he, of how he projected himself.
Hmm.
So when he shows up on the stage, you're like, well, can I really make him, mechanic number two? No, I don't think we can. We have to
Yeah.
find a role that's more fitting, of of his presence. And he did a lot. He was an actor in 55 films. He
Hmm.
directed 9, and he was a part of 5 soundtracks and a producer of 4 films.
Okay.
So we talk a lot, in the music industry about, what gives you your longevity. What gives you your longevity in film is the same thing that gives you longevity, you know, in the music industry, which is how much behind the scenes work are you
Yeah.
doing where your name is on the credits and you still can get paid or get recognition for what it is that you do. A lot of us get kind of caught up in being in front of the camera, and that's great. But
Hmm.
when you think about it, the people that make the most money are the people that are the ones that actually craft what it is that you're seeing the actors doing. So sometimes you'll see, like, you'll see actors and you'll see where they're acting, but they also the producer, the director of the film. There's a reason for that, you know.
Hmm.
So you want to kind of have that. So he made it his business to be a part of every aspect of what film and stage had to offer. And just like how it was back then, you got your chops off of being a actor on the stage first, because television wasn't popping then. Then
Right.
you moved into the silver screen, and then you moved into the boob tube or the smaller screen. And that's what he did. He
Hmm.
transitioned in all those places. But what got him seen, which is interesting to me, because you think about we're still doing in the middle of civil rights. He was actually nominated and won his first Oscar for a movie that I think most people don't think he won it for. People get so caught up in the heat of the night and Raisin in the Sun, but he actually won it for the Love of Ivy, which had a different little spin. Had a different spin on it. The maid in the story was going to go to college
Oh,
and to get her education, and the son of the family in the story wanted her to stay, so she set her up with a gentleman. in order to kind of keep her there. Because, we all know the story that, you only had two roads to go as a young woman. Either you're going to get your education, be a spinster, or maybe hopefully marry. If you're going to teach, you're going to be a spinster. You couldn't be married and be a teacher. That's a whole other story. But if you're
Hmm.
going to go in any other profession or be educated, you're going to go in that direction. And maybe you may meet yourself a nice man, or be married off. Those are the only two pass you had. So they
Right.
wanted her to stay. So he got an Oscar for that. Now that movie I'm not as familiar with as his other bodies of work, but I definitely want to kind of get into exactly what made this movie stand out. That he would be nominated, and he was the first African American to
Hmm.
win an Oscar for a leading role, because we kind of get caught up with Hattie,
Hmm.
but she was a supporting actress. He was the
Right.
first to get
Lead.
it for being a leading man. Now that says a lot. He was in some stiff, confident competition at the time. I know that took a lot of air out the room when he won
Hmm.
that night. But if you have an opportunity, pull his speech up. It's very magnanimous.
Okay.
Um, and it's like, whew, talk about black excellence.
Right.
you,
Right.
you're watching this and you're like, oh my gosh, just the artistry in his words, and the genuineness of what he had to say, and just not being arrogant or boastful, just taking in the moment. It was awesome. So, a
Hmm.
lot of us know him for the Heat of Night, the slap that was heard around the world. Um, Mr. Tips, you know,
Hmm.
and I don't think when he did that movie, I don't think anybody ever thought that anybody could ever come behind that performance and take it. And of course, when it ended up on television, it somehow was able to do it. But he did hand a
Hmm.
baton to him, because good gracious, his role as Virgil, was something else.
Yeah.
And he actually, he was nominated for his first Oscar in 1958, but won it 10 years later in 1968. And
Hmm.
that movie was the Defiant Ones. Did you see anything about that, Nikkei?
No, I saw that on the list. I was like, all right, let me find a Sidney Poitier movie to watch, something that people are familiar with, because I know I haven't seen his whole body of work. I saw that on the list, and there was one that I was looking for that I couldn't find.
And I stand corrected. He actually won in 1963 for Lily in the Fields.
That's what I thought. I thought
He
that's what
did. He won. He won in '63 for Lily in the Fields. But he was the writer for the In Pursuit of Ivy. He was a writer for that.
Okay.
So
Oh.
you think, if you look at his his bio work, he
Mm-hmm.
consistently worked all the way up through the '90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started to peel off
Dial
some. But
back.
by then, you think
Yeah.
about it, but the majority of what he did was in the '50s and the '60s. He did a lot. I don't think there was a year that he wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some times where he did more than um one film, or he was seen somewhere, a few times within the same year. So he did a lot. He stayed busy. He stayed very relevant.
Like you said, that hunger for what he loved. The film that thinking about what's similar to In the Heat of the Night, I saw it several months ago. Oh gosh, I just had it. I'm sorry, Blackboard Jungle,
Hmm.
1965. And it was based on, as I was watching it, I'm like, this is still somewhat relevant. He was a teacher in a high school with just out of control youth. The teachers were afraid to address the students. They were in the hall yelling, they were throwing stuff at the teacher. And the thing that sticks out in my mind, and I don't know why it is, it's like, okay, McKay, he survived the movie, he survived the situation. He was Mr. Tibbs, and he slapped a white guy, which back in the day would have got him killed. He survived that in the film. This is okay. But I was still on the edge of my seat because when he walked into the classroom, the kids were throwing out all kind of racial stuff. And there was one other. black student in the room, and when he walked in, the kids started talking to him like he was one of the students, and he had to tighten them up real quick. And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, a parent's gonna come after him. But if you haven't seen it, definitely check that one out. It's listed as a social drama, and I sat back and watched it, and I was like, these are all the same things that in modern day could still get a black man in trouble, but he had his way of dealing with it, creating that tension in film and still coming out on top.
Well, one of his famous films where he's a teacher is To Serve with Love, and
Mhm.
I think that when people look back fondly on him, it's because of that. He's when you think about all the other work that he's done, for some reason that and The Raisin and the Sun really stand out.
I
When it
guess who's coming to dinner?
Yeah. So, it's like when people think about him, those pop. But then it's so many other films he did that are across a lot of different other genres. Like, he's got a Western out there. He's
Hmm.
he really did, go, you know, different ends of what it is that he could do as an actor to kind of let us know that he was serious about his craft.
Right.
But we gotta talk about the three films that I think are cult classics.
All
And the
right.
crazy thing is that I watched these during the holidays. And
Okay.
when you asked me, Nicole, did you watch anything that was holiday related that dealt with African Americans? I told you no. I tell you what I did watch. I watched Uptown Saturday Night, Let's Do It Again, and A Piece of Action. And I was into the clothes. Oh my gosh, just how stylish the men were and the ladies were, and I'm just putting all the style together and some of this stuff I can remember because I was very small when the movies came out.
Mhm.
And that type of thing. But he had this raw, funny jive side to him that
Mhm.
with him up against Harry Belafonte and of course Bill Cosby, and I know people are like, oh gosh, but you have to give him credit where credit's due because he was not just in front of the camera with those films; he was behind the camera as well.
Right.
So his name is stamped all over that. And all those films were jam packed with your top of the line actors and actresses of the day.
Yep.
It I mean, every scene, it was somebody that was noteworthy. And if
Mhm.
they weren't noteworthy of the time, they were up and coming, and you realize this is what kind of put
This is
them
where they
on
got them
the map.
started. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a good time. So
Mhm.
if you want to cry and get all emotional, definitely check out the other ones that we saw, or
Yep.
talked about. But if you want to laugh and kind of see Harry being, not Harry being, seeing Sidney Poitier being funny and Harry Belafonte being, oh god, it's like some of the stuff that he was doing in these films, like being a gangster, and
Yes.
it's if you want to have a good laugh and kind of look back at style and listen to the language of because when you
Oh
talk
my
about
God.
the jargon of the time, I mean it's very dated. You can't look at it and not know that you're not knee deep in the 70s. Period. Is that
Mhm.
like, oh, this is 1926? No,
No.
this was knee deep
No.
in
You
the
heard all your
70s.
jive turkeys and jive this, jive. Yeah. Yeah. The bell bottoms, the big fluffy hat with the rim. Yeah. And
It's
everything was
everything.
brown and orange.
Yes. Yes. Everything was big and bold and loud and just it's just
Mhm.
attitude everywhere. It was
Yeah.
it was a phenomenal time. But he gave a lot. He left nothing on the table.
Yes.
And in 2009 was when he was given the highest civilian honor that can be ever awarded.
Can't.
And
Oh no, United States. Keep
mhm.
going. Mhm.
And he got the Medal of Freedom. And
Mhm.
he had placed around his neck by the first African American president. So look at all that history.
Yeah.
All in one room, all in one moment. And even then, they said that that day he was a little bit of everything, which is what I kind of want to mention about, his film history. He was very poignant. He was very
Mhm.
funny. He was the person that kind of got everyone, like they like to say, around the water cooler. He was that bridge. He was a little bit of everything to everybody in that room at different times.
Yeah.
Whether we saw it on film or not, a lot of people spoke of him in that way on that day. And of course, when he had an opportunity to speak, he did it in his way, in his fashion. So if you have an opportunity to listen to him give his acceptance speech, please do so, because it lets you know the level of humility that we should all have when
Yeah.
we're being honored, and just looking at the face of someone that strived for so much in a time where little was given, a lot had to be sacrificed, a lot had to be taken and fought for. There's a
Mhm.
level of appreciation that you have for that. And the last time that he was actually seen on television, or seen on film, was in 2001. Now he did some interviews, and he did some, as a matter of fact, he did two documentaries. But in
Mhm.
2001 was when he was seen in a film that was called, have it right here in my notes, The Last Brick Maker in America. So
Oh.
that's actually something that you can see, and actually pull up. And he was a brickmaker that lost his wife, and again, he ended up becoming the mentor to a student that was, a troublemaker, a problem. So they kind of like, made the connection there. So again, he's the person that's bringing someone into his space, into his world, making that connection with someone that is troubled. So it's like
Mhm.
something with trouble you seem to keep calling to him in film, and
Yeah.
he seemed to be the person to do that. What are some other thoughts that you have about Mr. Portier?
Well, talking about some of the international accolades, I can't remember
Yeah.
where he was an ambassador
For the
to.
Bahamas to Japan.
Yes,
Hmm.
Bahamas to Japan. He was knighted in, was it 2009, 2006, somewhere around there. Um, but he had that title KBE. So when you look him up, you'll see Sidney Poitier, comma KBE, and that's Knight. I gotta look it up again. Knight Commander to the British Empire, I think, is what it stands for. Yeah, Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire.
Okay.
So it's like he 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 didn't just stay between America and the Bahamas. His reach, he was far reaching, he was well respected around the world.
And look how humbly he began. And he speaks to that. If you have an opportunity, I'll tell anyone, look up, put in your Google search quotes by him,
Hmm.
and you will see where a lot of his quotes deal with just being humble and recognizing that where he began in his journey is who created him.
Hmm.
What created him. He gives a lot of honor to his mother. He values his father, but it seems like it was a kind of gentler nature of his mother that crafted him the most.
Hmm.
Um, his father seemed to take time to teach his sons certain aspects of being men. And he
Hmm.
has a quote about, your known or your legacy is by how well you raise your children. It's something to that extent. And that says a lot, because I think people take for granted that that's what you kind of, if you have children, that's what you want to leave your mark on the most, is them, because they're the ones that once you shut your eyes, they take on the mantle of who you were as a person. They're your living representation. So he speaks a lot about that. He was married twice,
Hmm.
and both of his marriages lasted a long time. As a matter of fact, he died still being married. And he had one daughter with her, but he had his other daughters. So he was the epitome of a girl dad.
Yes, yeah, four daughter. Yeah, four.
Four with the first wife, and he had a fifth one with the second wife. And I saw somewhere where he had six. So I'm not sure if that may have been a child that either was deceased or was
Yeah.
outside of those relationships. But
One of his daughters died. Which, when I say four, he has four living daughters, and one of the
okay.
five, excuse me, died.
Okay. So So that's where we are with that. But he was the epitome of a girl dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess being around all those women, you have two choices. Either you're gonna be hard as bricks, or you're gonna be as soft as as a pillow. Because where can you go with all that? That's a lot. That's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So now we're left with Harry Belafonte, and there's an article out saying that from his daughter that he is not faring well because he's lost a friend of his that he has known for 70 years,
He's
and
lost.
they were as close as brothers.
Yeah.
And
He
and
got his start because of him,
yeah.
because of Harry Belafonte. When we go back to him trying to get training, he was actually working as a janitor at the school that he
Hmm.
was trying to attend, and he bartered his service for lessons. And
Hmm.
his first opportunity to hit the stage, he and Harry Belafonte had already formed a friendship. His first opportunity to hit the stage was because Harry was not available to
He
fill
was
his,
sick actually. Yeah,
yeah.
he was
And um oh gosh, I'm losing names now. And Sidney was his
a
understudy,
study. Yeah.
and he brought down the house. They loved him. And so that's how he actually got his start, because of that relationship with
And
her.
look at how that could have spiraled into jealousy,
But
and
when
it didn't.
when you have two people with similar backgrounds and similar mentalities, you rise together.
And they were both the sons of immigrants.
Right.
Harry from New York,
Mm-hmm.
and of course Sidney from Miami, and and they all had that scrap knuckle tenacity of we're gonna do this, and we're gonna work hard, and you don't have to lose in order for me to win.
Right.
And Harry was more vocal when it came to the civil rights movement. Sydney was not as vocal, but they all had their own role to play, and that's the whole thing. I think the one thing I could take from watching lives of both these men is knowing what role you play, and not just as an actor, but ultimately, what are you lending your time, your talent, your um your fame to,
Mm-hmm.
and how are you the most impactful with that? And they both had their own lane, and they rode in their own lane for years, did
Mm-hmm.
their own thing, cut their own path, and now we're talking about one that's passed on, and there's one that's still left, but they're still relevant. And what does that say when you so you look at their lives, you recognize, if I pattern myself after that the best that I can't help but win. I
Right.
can't. I'm so glad that we were alive at a time to have seen him for
Right.
ourselves. It's a
Yeah.
generation of children that won't know what it was like to watch him live, or to see his films, and he was still here to talk about himself and what went into his work.
And his
I
greatness wasn't reliant on the interwebs.
Honey, not at all. Not at
They
all.
did it all without AOL or Google or any of that stuff.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be missed, but the
Yeah.
thing about film and music is that it lives eternal. And
Hmm.
so anytime we miss him just a little, we still have an archive of work where we can go back and remember who he was and appreciate what it is that he left behind. So thank you, Mr. Portier, for everything that you've given us, not just as African Americans, not just as people of color, but to the body of artistry in every
Hmm.
sense of the word, and giving us something to aspire to, not just be a good actor or a good writer or a good producer or a good director, but to be a good human being.
Right. Well done, sir. Well done. So that is our show for today. We ask you, as always, to follow us on our platforms. You'll find me at nikkeiwrites.wordpress.com. Come on by, bring some coffee. You will find Don at donmiskel.com. He says hi, by the way. And Nicole, you will find her at nicolethecandice.com.
And for the last two shows, I've been really mild. I might have grown, matured some. But we'll see next week.
Hi.
Glad for the change. You
Okay.
drive me crazy.
Yeah, we haven't had one about music yet. So, speaking of music, make sure you follow Robert Rice Jr. His music is what you heard in the opening credits.
Yes.
Okay. And don't forget, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Yes. We want to see more of you.
We
Okay.
do.
So follow our Facebook page, Movies That Move We. Nicole, you want to tell them how it works?
We have 3 questions, and we need you to answer those questions as honestly as possible. That you're not going to come into our space and tear up. That's it. that you're going to turn the lights off. That you're going to keep the screen door closed, and that you're not going to touch the thermostat, and you're not going to go in the refrigerator if I wash your hands. All the things that your grandma told you to do when you went somewhere, and sit down. Don't ask for anything. We just
No, we want you to ask stuff. Just make
yeah,
sure it's
but you
relevant
know what
to
I
you.
mean. People
Yeah.
don't come in and cause a ruckus among
Yeah,
us.
don't put your
You
feet
know,
on the furniture, that type of
yeah,
no.
don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
do that. You already ate, so don't ask those nice people for anything. They offer you something, you're not hungry, you're not even thirsty. Um, but we just ask that you don't solicit, that you don't come in and cause any disruptions, that you're not disrespectful. Which is what we would ask, anybody would ask you anywhere that you go. That you have to kind of put this stuff out there because not everybody was raised right. So that's all. That's all we're asking. And you can join a conversation and post and be a part of what we have going on. It's a good, safe, clean space to talk about movies that move us as a people of color. It's awesome because we learn something new every day. People post all the time like, "Wow, I didn't know that." That's wow.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
So join us, be a part of us. We'll
Join us
post.
on
Oh, sorry,
Facebook.
I said the
You
fun
know
part.
what? Don't start nothing. See, you were good. And now
I
you
was.
start to cutting up again.
I'm a
But
goodie.
also follow us on YouTube. We're under Media That Moves We,
That
and then
moves me.
find our entire Movies That Move We playlist. You can go ahead all the way back to our beginning. By the way, we've been around for a year,
Oh, wow.
whole year, a
A
whole
whole
year. So
year.
happy anniversary to us.
Whoop,
Um,
whoop.
so yeah, you can go back and watch all the stuff that we did. We have some videos on Facebook from when we first started out, but a bulk of what we've done is right there on YouTube. So go ahead, check it out, comment, like, share, tell your wife, tell your kids. And that's all we have for today,
That's
people.
all we have, people. Thank you so much for joining us as we honor the life and the times of Sidney Poitier and what he gave to us as a tremendous author and, not author, excuse me, actor and human being
He
across
was
the
an
board.
author too. He
He
was an author.
was. He was. I'm so
He
used to
did
saying
it all.
author for ourselves. We did write stuff and we are published, but
Yeah.
but this show was specifically just all geared towards him. We didn't want to focus on one film. It's kind of hard to, you know
Put him in a box.
it is, and that's the kind of life you want to live, where people just don't know what to do with you because there's so
Mhm.
much of you that you left behind. That's good. So
Yeah. As one friend put it, he wants to die empty, using
yes.
everything that he had and giving all that he can and touching every part of life that he could. And I think Sir Sidney Poitier did just that.
He surely did. So thank you all for watching this show and the shows that we have to come. We appreciate your support.
All right. Bye everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.